welcome back to the Romaru podcast, where your someday starts now. And today we are talking about the crazy trip that we just took with more than 8 bags, 12 bags, a dog, a toddler, overnight flight, and then moving into our tiny 2-bedroom apartment in France.
In a foreign country, folks. We did it. We made the move from the U.S. to France. Here we go. So, I mean, so much was leading up to that moment, but then let's go to the moment.
Well, last week we talked about what we packed, how we packed, all the chaos that went into that. And now we're getting ready to actually board the flight. How did you feel like the day before, the night? When was it? It was a night flight? Yeah, the day of or the night before?
The day of, I just felt ready. I think all of the emotions were flooding in that week before and weeks before. And then that day, it was kind of like competition day. Like, we have prepared for this moment, game face on, and I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The day of was kind of relaxing.
Well, I think we had done such great prep work ahead of time so that we weren't racing to the airport, not knowing if we packed all our bags. Like, we really did everything so that we finished, for the most part, I would say 2 days before our flight. So then those last 2 days were really like just checking the work.
And we had to do a caravan. We actually had 2 cars, 2 SUVs to load up all the bags to make it to the airport, which that was chaotic in itself.
The grandparents brought us,
which
was emotional.
Yes, it was emotional. But we did it. And then we got to the airport and Lucy was an absolute spaz.
Lucy, our dog, is the sweetest toy Australian Shepherd. And she's such a love. And then in public spaces, she's just not really used to loud noises. And we lived in the suburbs. So she was, a grass peeing, enjoying the quiet life suburb dog. And then we bring her to an airport and she just kept splooting across the floor. I couldn't get her to have any traction at the airport. And I'm like, you got to pull it together, girl.
Yeah, she was the variable. Scotland, rock star. Security took a while. Great. She was great. It was Lucy who the whole time we're like, you just need to chill. But we got it through. We got all our bags checked in, which that was stressful because we had weighed everything, but we're, hoping that we weren't like a few pounds over and had to move some stuff.
And the most important piece of luggage or paperwork, you could say, came in only 24 hours before our flight. Can we recall that a little bit?
Yeah, we'll go into details of how to fly with a dog, but just in short, you have to get you have to get approval from the USDA. So you have to go to a USDA approved vet to get basically a physical done on your dog. And then the problem is that the bureaucracy says the USDA won't take any action until 10 days leading up to your flight. So you can submit all your paperwork months ahead of schedule. And then they won't even look at it until 10 days before your flight. And then they send you your approval letter
in the mail,
like the day before.
So there's no digital approval. You can't get something in your email. You have to wait for FedEx to come.
So and
that wait is tough.
We were stressing. Colette and I even had a little powwow to figure out, okay, what are we going to do if she doesn't get approved? We need to have a backup plan. So we even had friends on standby to make sure that if we have to go to the airport without her, we can drop Lucy off. Yeah, I forgot about how horrible that was.
I think that was the biggest piece of stress leading up to the flight, honestly. And we didn't get her approval until the day before.
Yeah.
So
we actually met people on the flight,
which
sad. I felt they were looking at her dog and I thought either they're really fond of her or they really don't like her. And they're like, we feel so bad. They're like, we wanted to bring our dog, but our approval didn't come through. So that happens. People go through the whole process. And because of this bureaucracy of this 10-day limit, whatever this is, people don't get approved. And so you can't take your dog.
Yeah, this family that we met was actually moving to France as well. They just didn't have their dog with them. It was really sad. But alas, we got the paperwork. Lucy was allowed to come. We show up at the check-in counter at La Compagnie, the airline we flew. They checked her paperwork. We were approved to fly. And I just want to point out that this airline is an all business class airline, and they only fly to 3 spots. They fly from Newark to Milan, Newark to Paris, and Newark to Nice. And it's an all business class airline, about 76 seats on the flight. I thought the flight was great. Like, it was just seamless. It's not It's not first class on Emirates where the service is out of control, but it's exactly what you need to fly overnight to Europe. There's a lie flat seat, there's great food, and it was a very quiet flight, I think ultimately because there weren't that many people on it.
I felt like it was business class seats with like just above economy amenities.
Economy
like
plus amenities.
Like the food was okay.
I thought the food was pretty good.
It was okay. It wasn't, but it wasn't like, I mean, if you think about some of the other business class services we've had, like Turkish Air, where like a chef comes out and like they lay out your apron and they give you like a 5-course meal with like a little candle and you have all the accoutrements to go with it. This wasn't there.
No.
This was like, hey, here's your meal. It's okay. It's fine. And the seats, like you said, everything was fine. It was
everything you need.
It's everything you need and nothing else.
Yes.
So it was perfect for us because we didn't really record anything because we were so stressed. And then, Lucy, we'll talk about Lucy in a second. She's kind of the topic of this whole journey. So we get to the airport, we check in our bags, and now it's just like a normal flight. We have our carry-on bags with us, go to the lounge, have a little snack, and then we go to board, and we're freaking out still because we're still wondering, are they going to see some problem with Lucy's paperwork? Even though we've checked in, even though everything's fine, and then we finally get on the plane, right? How did that feel?
That was exciting. I mean, boarding that flight, walking down the aisle, I can close my eyes and picture it now. And there was excitement. It was like, you've been training for this moment. It was like game day, as I said. And that was it. You're walking, and I was a long jumper back in the day. So like the runway analogy is actually like really playing in my head right now, how I used to have to run and jump down a runway. And now I'm walking down this airplane aisle. In my head, they look similar. So we're walking down and I just felt like this is it. Like I'm so excited. I have good butterflies. This is the big jump. This is the leap. And I felt ready. And then we got to our seat and everybody's excited. Scott's doing great. Scotland's great. I'm great. And then there's Lucy. Girl was shaking and so nervous and pushing against me. Luckily, they allowed her out of her crate. They say online on the company that they have to be in a little carrier. But she was able to be on us, and thank goodness, because she was a nervous little baby.
Yes. And fortunately, the seat, we had an extra seat. So Lucy actually got her own business class seat.
Well, I want to say we didn't have an extra seat. Yeah, there was an empty seat next to us.
Yes, there was an empty seat. So she got her own business class seat. And even with that, she was freaking out the entire time. So after taking off, about, I'd say 2 hours in, I realized it was time to give her a little doggy Xanax because she
vet approved, folks.
Yeah, vet approved. We would try to give her water. We would try to give her snacks. She didn't want any of it. Even her little treats. She didn't want a thing. She just wanted to lay on us and just kind of be held and kind of be hugged, really. It was kind of like she just needed to be like held tightly. Gave her the doggy Xanax. She knew she was drugged immediately. She kind of gave me this look like, Dad, I trusted you. But she fell asleep. Scotland fell asleep. Mom fell asleep. We all slept for maybe 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, I think you guys might have slept a little bit more than I did.
A little bit more. And then Lucy woke up and she was very upset with me.
But she's forgiving. She's a forgiving dog.
She's forgiving. And she still wouldn't drink any water.
For like 2 days,
It was like 2 days, yeah. Yeah, it took her a long time to kind of get everything back online.
Yeah, that was a little concerning. I kept offering it and she did not want it.
Yeah. But we show up, and this has been our plan all along was, actually I should say when we got to the airport, we knew right away we're going to need a porter because we've got, hundreds of pounds of baggage to deal with, emotional and physical. And so, when we got to Newark Airport, we just went and found a porter and asked him. And in the States, it's just kind of an honor tip system. So we tipped him. And then when we get to Europe, same thing, show up. Hey, we need help with bags. There was very transparent. Guy said, he had a little sheet. He had like an official badge. Here's the price. It was 85 euros for him to help us with our bags.
I thought it was 60.
Was it 65?
Yeah, it was 6. I thought it was 60 euro.
Okay. Maybe I thought it was 80. Well, somewhere. So not cheap, but we had to use it. And when you had a van set up.
Mm-hmm. I actually booked Black Lane ahead of time, the Black Lane service. And it was really straightforward. And I didn't want to risk having to find vans at the airport after having going through all the stress and an overnight flight. I just wanted to have that guaranteed. So that was booked ahead of time. And it was great. And our bags just fit. And they brought a car seat. That was really helpful.
Oh, that's right. They did.
That was the big thing. I didn't want to not have a car seat because we didn't travel with one. Car seats are different in Europe, folks.
I remember the guy actually said, he started loading the bags. He goes, this isn't going to fit. He goes, there's no way. And I looked, it was a big van. I mean, this is a big European van. I'm like, well, we can fold the seats down. And they had to fold the seats down. We had to sit like all in one row. And it was, the thing was loaded to the brim when we finally got it to take off.
But we did it.
But we did it. And he and both guys worked. And then when we got to the apartment, that's when the real work started.
Yes. And all our bags did make it.
And all our bags made it. And then we're, sorry, there's people outside yelling.
We're in a city, folks. There's background noise. They don't know we're recording sound. Guys, we're recording sound up here.
Yeah, quiet down out there. But it was, so we didn't know at the time, but our apartment is on basically like a highway. Our short-term apartment it's called Barla. It's the thoroughfare that goes all the way through through the city. And it is loud because it's basically a 4-lane road with high rises lining the street. And so all of the noise from the mopeds and the cars just kind of echo off of it. So we show up, it's 90 degrees?
Oh yeah, it was very hot. Très chaud. And yeah, we arrived, the AC was not on when we arrived. And if you know anything about European AC units anyway, it doesn't get like 68 and a chill in the air. No, it's still like 78 if you get the AC flowing.
And that's after a day of running. So we show up
sweating,
just soaked, and we have to move all these bags. And so Coco takes care of Scotland, and I just start lugging these bags around. And the guy with the van, he's like, I'd help you, but we're on this busy street. I can't just not watch these bags for you. I understood. And it was such a workout. So we get all of them inside the apartment building.
Luckily, we have an elevator here.
We do have
Although it's a European elevator, so
Yeah.
it could hold about 2 bags.
Yeah, so we'll get into that's so load up the bags. We're grabbing, these are 70-pound duffel bags, and then you start looking at the elevator and it says 200 kilogram max. And so you start doing the math with the bags and me on it. And it's like, I'm going to have to do like 4 or 5 trips just to get this up to the apartment. So it was like an hour of just like moving the bags, lugging them, and I'd get into the apartment and I'd be like, it's so hot in here because the AC had been off and it was 85 degrees. There was a heat wave going on in Nice. And even though we turn on the AC, it's like one little small unit to kind of cool this entire apartment.
Yeah. 1 unit in the main room.
Make it up. We got lucky. Only 1 bag got damaged.
Yes, 1 bag did get damaged, but they all made it, which was great. I was worried about that. Again, team carry on.
but then even just getting them where to put the bags. Because we show up and this is a nice apartment, but it's, here we have 8 large. We have 4 actual suitcases, I think, and 3 duffels.
We have 4 hard shell roller suitcases. We have
4
and then
four
four
duffels. 4
yeah.
duffels. And then our carry-on bags,
carry-on
and other stuff.
I think we actually did a good job organizing the apartment for what it is.
I think, but it also took us a few days.
Yes.
Like we got in here and it was just chaos. Bags were everywhere. And so we, just like when we were packing up everything, it took time to unpack, even though we haven't unpacked our big bags. It just took us a long time to kind of organize this place to a livable, even safe condition, because Scotland's room had these shelves that she could pull over.
Yeah, they weren't secured to the wall. So we're like, okay, we have to be the moving men now and pick up these things and put them in another room to make sure her room is safe. And yeah, we had to do some more organizing.
I'm actually a bit concerned about how we're going to put this all back together, because I don't recall.
We didn't take a photo.
Well, what I thought was we'll have to look at the posting.
Yeah, I remember most of it, honestly.
Because we have put things, we've moved things all the way around. Like we've moved shelves in our room, things in the hallway. It's tight squeeze. I was so embarrassed when our nanny came over for the first time, because we came from a house where it's like, you can go down in the basement, you can play in the family room, you can go up to her room. And we come here and we're like, we're going to be on top of each other.
We're going to be like 5 feet from you.
But she,
trying to work.
I mean, she had already had some experience in the city, but she did such a great job. Just like, oh, I'll move her over here. We'll do this. We'll do that. We'll play.
And we have a tiny balcony.
And we do have a tiny balcony. They spend a lot of time out there just kind of playing on the little table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was
We're making the most of it. I think it's just a small period of time. It's temporary. And then we're going to move on.
I was impressed with your ability to organize some of the apartment.
Oh, thank you.
Because I always feel like it's me, the engineer, being like, well, we'll move this over here and that there. And you were like, I've got ideas. I was like, that's a very good idea. That works.
When my baby's safety's on the line, the ideas flow.
Yeah. It actually it's fine now. But yeah, we put bags behind couches and just in corners. So we figured it out. We're squeezing in. We put Scotland, well, now she's sleeping on a twin bed on the floor.
Yeah, the mattress is on the floor. She loves it. She's like, I have a huge bed. This is awesome. Going from crib life to bed life.
But so we get to city life. We get to Nice. And do we love it?
Everybody's like, oh, you must love it. Let's be real.
Well, we
didn't love it.
We didn't love it. We showed up. Well, a few things happened. Let's first, a short answer. We were like, we made a huge mistake. We are walking around the city. We're stepping out of our apartment. We're getting blasted with heat, with noise. We're so uncomfortable. We're jet lagged. Just all of the comfortable things that we had at home, we don't have anymore. And we're just like, I think we made a mistake. We got to figure out what to do.
I think we were overstimulated, overwhelmed by everything. Because again, we're on this main thoroughfare. And it's so loud. So it's loud, pretty loud in our apartment. And then when you step out, it's just, there's motorcycles and buses and it's just so dang loud.
You can't get away from it.
No.
You're so uncomfortable. The heat, it's just miserable. Yeah.
So we were really questioning ourselves because again, we didn't get to fly out and do a scout beforehand. We had been to the south of France. We had been to nearby towns. But it wasn't like we had come to Nice in a past vacation and fell in love with it and chose it that way. We moved here sight unseen. So that was a huge risk. And we didn't take a scouting trip to look for apartments ahead of time or get a lay of the land. We were really doing things
I think
on
you need
research.
To reiterate, we haven't really been to Nice.
I had spent one night in Nice in college.
So I think
Looking back, would you have done things differently?
Yeah, I think we should have come. The way we picked, we were like, I don't know where to go. Do we go to Antibes? We basically looked at the maps and we're like, hey, this looks like a great city. It should have everything. So we were freaking out. We didn't know what to do. And so we would walk around but also a few things were going on. It was August, which is the busiest month in the south of Europe, south of France. It was Jazz Fest.
Which is a huge music festival here in Nice. It's really cool.
And so we walked down, the day we walked down to the beach, we're walking on the promenade and it is insanely crowded. We're just like, why are there so many people?
Yeah. And it's not like we've only been in the suburbs. Like we used to go into New York City a lot and New York City is a very busy city. I don't think I've ever seen so many people at all times. No matter where I was, there was just throngs of people everywhere.
I feel like you were probably almost like researching flights home at that point.
Maybe in my head. It was more so we should move somewhere else in Europe. Like maybe we didn't make the right choice. And we don't have to be stuck here, right? And there's no failure in this. It's just maybe we need to try something else. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and go to the thing is, I did think about other countries, but we're already in the process of getting your visa here in France and we hired an attorney. And the payment has started. So it's like, well, you have to stick to France now. You don't have to stay in Nice, but you have to stick to France. Of course, we could change countries, but yeah, it's kind of a risk again. Yeah. There's just a lot of risks back to back. And so, yeah, we had to have a few breakdowns. I think I remember one night I was like, what are we doing? We made the wrong move. We didn't come out here and scout. And I know we couldn't have come out here and scouted without a huge financial undertaking. And then bringing Scotland out, which is traveling on an overnight with a kid is no joke. So, and I couldn't leave her in the States and then go to Europe. It just didn't fit well. So this is the situation that we had to be in kind of. And of course we could have chosen a place that we were more familiar with.
Yeah.
That kind of crossed my mind.
So I mean, we were we were stuck, and I can remember we like sat down in the office, in the bedroom, and just started trying to do some work and just figure out like, what could we do? And we started researching places to live, like looking at other forums, looking on what apartments were out there, what would it be? And additionally, I think we also started exploring too.
We did. We started exploring different neighborhoods, and we realized that, okay, the neighborhood that we rented a temporary place in, we don't vibe with it. It's not our style. We thought we wanted to be in the thick of the city, and it turns out we don't. We just had different expectations and for the city and for ourselves. Okay, so we have to realign those. We start looking around the city, and then we start seeing pockets that we like. We go down on the Promenade des Anglais, which is the main strip that goes along the Mediterranean Sea. And all of a sudden I felt a bit of levity and like, oh, this is really nice. There's a dog beach. There's families playing in the sea. There's people biking and walking and running. And it was like a California vibe.
Very much like Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, maybe I just didn't like the part of the city. It's not that I didn't like the city. Nice is a huge city. It's the 5th most populated city in the country of France. And we are in the thick of it, guys.
And we realized a few things. One, the routes we were walking, once we realized the street we were on was basically a highway, we tried to get off of it as much as possible. So as soon as we get out of our apartment, we just, go down a different street to where it's a little bit quieter. We started to learn with, the Boys Town was just down there with all these beautiful restaurants and shops and stuff. And so we're starting to like it a little bit, but we're still kind of hesitant.
Yeah, I think we are still hesitant because with the responsibility of raising a child here, I think there's this immense, no other word other than responsibility that I can think of. Like, I just want to make sure it's okay for her, for us. And when you think about spending a year, and in some cases you can put the perspective of a year's not so long, but actually if we're only spending a year in Europe, I want it to be awesome and epic and the place that we want to be, not second best. So we were very discerning and then going through different neighborhoods and trying to figure out what would be the best one. We don't want to settle. That's not what we're here for. We're here for a great adventure. So we ended up looking at different apartments.
And we also started looking at different places.
Different locations.
Different locations. We started asking friends, where should we live? What should we do? And so we actually started searching in
Aix-en-Provence.
Aix-en-Provence. And we were like, I think maybe we need to go move there.
Yeah. Our dear friends love it there. They said they'd move there in a heartbeat. We should go there and never look back. And we really value their opinion. They're Americans that live in Europe and have for the past 7 years. So
we, in the office, we started looking at apartments in Aix and actually started reaching out, trying to make appointments. You started reaching out to schools and trying to figure out. And then we also found a CrossFit. And then we were like, we need to go there.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow, basically.
I mean, so if I could take you through the timeline, we went to Aix on a Tuesday and we were coming back on a Friday. So we were going to spend 3 nights in Aix. But all of a sudden we had a timeline, and not just because we had to get back to Nice on Friday, but because...
Well, right before we left to Nice, there was an apartment. This apartment was the first one our agent was like, I think you guys will really like this one. And we saw it on the map and we're like, I don't like that. I don't like that location.
It's too far from the city. Too far from the action.
We said, okay, let's go check it out now. Let's go see this place. Now that we realize we don't love the thick, loud part of the city. We checked it out. And we checked out in the morning before we left, I believe. The morning before we left to Aix, and loved it. Like, yeah, this place looks great. Put in our application and we got in the car and drove to Aix. And here we are thinking, I think on the way to Aix, I'm like, I think Aix is a spot. Like we're in this vibe. We're on a mission to go explore, to make friends as fast as we can, to really understand the city. And we pull in, basically we're parking in the parking garage and our agent calls and says, hey, you got the apartment. And this is like an amazing, beautiful oceanfront apartment.
Seafront, folks.
Seafront. So we're on a panic because she's like, when's the next time you'll be at a computer? And here we are thinking, I don't know if we want to be in Nice. But we can't say no to this apartment because it's gone. And it's kind of the only one that we really vibed with in Nice. So I just panic and I'm like, can we sign them in person? And they're like, yeah, sure. Okay, when you get back to the city, we'll sign them in person. So that gives us time to at least explore Nice.
So put 72 hours on the clock. And now we have time to explore X.
We got into our apartment, and our goal was basically to try to see any apartment we could, which we had one appointment, and we were still messaging other agents and whatnot, and we were still searching the websites that we could. We were going to go to a CrossFit, and our plan was, let's try to meet as many people as we can there because we've had good luck in the past. And what was day one? I think it was like day one, we just explored. Day one, we just got lost. We were, just loving Nice. It's beautiful. It's such an artsy city.
Loving X. We were in X.
Oh, I was in X. Sorry. Loving X. And if you get the chance, X is, we'll talk a little bit more about X next week, the actual details of the city and what we thought of it. As you can tell, we loved it. But yeah, what else happened? So then we went to CrossFit, right? The next morning.
Yeah, we went to CrossFit in the morning. And I do recommend this, even if you're traveling in a new place and you like to CrossFit, you get to meet the locals and you get the locals' perspective and the local recommendations. And so we wanted to see, these could be our friends. They like working out and all of that. Let's see what they're like. So we go to the CrossFit and we vibe with it immediately.
The CrossFit had AC, which is unheard of in Europe.
Air conditioning. We were like, oh, we love it here. and we really loved it. And they gave us great feedback and introduced us to a realtor in X. And so as a just in case. And so we were thinking, okay, I guess we're moving to X. But we still had, we had a locked in apartment in Nice versus just a dream in X. And so we looked around. We looked at this one apartment, which I found on Facebook. And it was beautiful. It was exactly what we wanted, but it was further from town.
It was a little far from town. And it was in basically an old person's complex.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't the right fit, but it also seemed like rent was cheaper in X.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, and the drawback I think was that X, we would probably need a car. And we would be further from an airport, and we would be flying from Marseille airport then, because Aix-en-Provence is in Provence, and there's no direct flight to the States. So there are some drawbacks here. We would always have to connect versus Nice. There's a direct flight to the States, and we're a 10-minute tram ride from the airport. So we kept just battling back and forth. And
it was exhausting too, because here we are mentally, just this mental anguish of where do we want to live? Are we making the right decision? We're not settled physically, where we are living. We're in this temporary apartment. We're doing, go to CrossFit, meet people, have a workout, then come back home, go explore the city, see if you like it, try to see as much as you can. It was just, God, it was such a gauntlet of travel. And then we get back home and you go, okay, did I see enough? Is there anything else? Have any apartments popped up on the websites? And we're on and we're literally counting down the hours. We're okay, we've got 48 hours before we need to decide, 36 hours, 24 hours. And, after 3 days in X, how much we loved the city, we kind of, we even had to have an emergency meeting with our friends and family to be like, hey, we need someone a sounding board to bounce these ideas off of. Are we what do you think? And kind of just decided with all the variables, there really wasn't a right or wrong decision. It was just kind of make the best of everything. And it was kind of based on our situation, what we want to do for the next year, what we have coming up. We just decided we love X and we'll probably be back, but I think we're going to go forward with Nice.
Yeah. So the decision was made, Nice. But we also said, we could come back to X every month if we wanted to. It's a 2-hour drive. We love it here. But I do think that Nice is the right decision for right now.
Absolutely.
And if for some reason we don't like it, we can change our minds.
Yeah.
But this is all, we didn't get to fly out and have a chance to scout all these towns ahead of time. So arriving in France was our scout.
Yeah.
We gave ourselves a week to be okay, let's look around and see where we want to live between these two cities. And those were our two cities to begin with. We're doing it on a crunched timeline.
Very much so, yes. So I think, that just shows how much it's not easy. I know Instagram shows it look, we're in France. Cheers, have some rosé. But it's been good to know, to decide at least the city, the apartment. And now we're still in limbo, but we're moving forward.
And I'm proud of us for saying, if we're not happy, we can make a change. If we're not happy, we can still look. Like nothing has to be so permanent. And I think oftentimes we live in this binary world where it's either the right decision or the wrong decision. And I think here it's just a decision that we can recorrect or whatever we need to do. And I'm glad that we're able to have open and honest conversations about it, because together then, when our minds go together, we're able to make this plan that has power behind it, instead of like all of these what if scenarios that live inside your head. I know I have so many of those constantly, but when we actually speak out loud and create a plan, magic happens.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I always know whenever we sit down and put our minds together and focus on something, great things will happen. And
Couples communicating.
Couples communicate.
and communicating with candor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to, because there are so many emotions that come up in moves, even if it's just down the street in your hometown. When it's across the world, there's a lot that goes into it. And so you have to be really vulnerable with yourself and with your partner so that you can set yourselves up for success.
Yeah. Well, do we talk? I think we wrap it up here. And
let's wrap it up here. We do want to get into just a whole travel diary, recommendations, all of the things in Aix-en-Provence, because it's a magical city. It's enchanting. And we're going to have a lot of these throughout our time in France, because everything is so accessible. It's a train ride, a car ride, a quick airplane ride away. So we're going to be traveling a lot, guys, and we're going to be taking you along with us. So next week, we're digging into the enchanting city of Aix-en-Provence.
All right. A bientôt.
A bientôt.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're learning from and or enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. These are great free ways to support this podcast. Also, please subscribe to this podcast on both Spotify and Apple. On both of those platforms, you can leave us up to a 5-star review, which would help us out greatly. Please also check out the sponsors mentioned in today's episode. That's the best way to support this show. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please put those in the comment sections in YouTube. And yes, we do read all the comments.